It's hard to believe that Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith is now 20 years old. I was fortunate enough to see this amazing film twice, first as a youngling and recently for the re-release of its anniversary. The reception of the film has come a long way, and it's amazing to see how many people appreciate and love the prequels that so many of us grew up with and were so captivated by. So today, I wanted to show you guys some other ways you can experience this epic tale. Now, this isn't supposed to be an all-encompassing holocron of data. I know there's so many variants of Episode 3 out there. I just want to focus on the ones I particularly love and think are worth experiencing. Let's start with one many of you probably already know, the incredible movie tie-in game. There is a lot of love for the Revenge of the Sith game, and in my opinion, it's for a good reason. It's got a lot going for it, not just as a game, but as a Star Wars experience. The movie adaptation takes place over 17 levels, featuring not only a basic version of the story that we already know, but it includes extra uncut scenes now fleshed out into full levels to extend certain parts of the story. The first thing I really want to mention about this game is how much they get right in terms of combat. It's actually way more technical than I thought it was going to be. Not only do you have basic strong and light attacks, you've got grabs, launches, combo extenders, directional inputs, parrying, countering, all combined with force moves to keep the enemy guessing. Enemies have all types of different weaknesses and combo routes, meaning you have to learn how each one works if you want to come out on top. Where the game really shines though is in its boss battles. These are the absolute highlights and really capture that Lucasfilm feeling. Being able to jump and do slow flips over your opponents to dodge attacks, being able to parry at the right time and do the iconic Annie spin as an attack, genuinely makes you feel like you're watching a choreographed fight from the film.
I'll show you the true power of the dark side.
Confuse me. It won't work. Don't make me strike you down!
While the level design itself is quite basic, I think it really succeeds due to the fact that it is Star Wars and uses it almost as a crutch. Some of the levels do sometimes feel a bit long, and not many have good checkpoints, so if you die, it's back to the start of the level if that's something that does frustrate you. Despite this, I think the levels are still a great experience as they offer uncut scenes from the film as playable segments, like I've mentioned before. You know, having some extra time within Grievous's ship, getting to be Anakin fighting through the Jedi Temple during Order 66, and even having a battle against Sindraling and his apprentice, which was also cut from the film. These were all great additions to the game that adds more context and weight to these scenes. They still happen, but now we get to see the full meat of these events. You get to play these events. You don't get to fight those little younglings though, that would probably bring the game rating up immensely. Now there are some other optional missions in which you can play as other characters like General Grievous and even Darth Vader, but I think a learning Padawan like you should experience those firsthand. If you manage to find a fellow Padawan as well, you can even try out the 1v1 fighting mode, which is just an absolute blast as it features characters from all across the Skywalker saga. The best part for me personally though is the final 2 levels of this game. They are both the exact same, the Mustafar duel that is the climax of the film, but with the added caveat of being able to be either Anakin or Obi-Wan. Now the Obi-Wan fight plays out the exact same way it does in the film, with him defeating Anakin and turning into Vader, but if you play as Anakin, you get an alternate ending to Revenge of the Sith, which is actually teased in the novelization, which we'll get to in a second. I'll show the recording of it here, but if you want to experience the ending yourself, fast forward the holocron to, about here. Okay. Here we go.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
You underestimate the power of the dark side.
Don't try it!
Excellent work, my apprentice. There are none left to oppose us. The galaxy is ours now. Your new weapon, Lord Vader.
No, the galaxy belongs to me.
Aside from the cool alternate ending, the amazing boss fights and flashy animations and music from the films, you've also got some extra goodies, including a gallery with concept art, which is something I always love to see in these movie tie-in games. I just wish we got to see more interviews like we did in the Lord of the Rings games. One can dream. I think if you aren't a huge Star Wars fan, you might not enjoy it as much, but seeing the amount of effort they've put in to replicate so many elements of the film makes the entire experience incredible for a fan. Now, I played the original Xbox version because it's backwards compatible with all current Xbox consoles, so you can play this game upscaled at a higher frame rate. I know I didn't touch upon it either, but I also highly recommend the GBA and DS versions of Episode 3, which I played mainly as a kid. They're these awesome side-scroller beat-em-ups that also have a decent array of mechanics and a pretty unique color palette. Plus, the chiptune versions of the Star Wars soundtrack is just great. The DS version also does have some space battles which aren't in the GBA version, and I really wish we got some proper fleshed out versions of these space battles in the full 3D home console release. But whichever version you decide to play, I know you'll have a blast experience Episode 3 in a game format. I think it's time to move on to another version of Episode 3, in which I believe many young Padawans haven't done in a long time. Reading. The Star Wars Episode 3 novelization by Matthew Stover is genuinely one of my favorite books, mainly because it does so much to add to the characters of the film and the setting of Revenge of the Sith. I really think that reading this book after watching Episode 3 helps to enhance the experience for future viewings. Matthew Stover just has a really good way of getting across a character's intentions, either through backstory explanations, what they're going through in their own head, as well of course their actions throughout the story itself. A particular highlight for me is how good Palpatine and Anakin are in this book. Now in the movie, for me, Palpatine comes across almost as this Saturday cartoon villain. He's a bit goofy and he's kind of bad at keeping secrets that he's a Sith Lord. It's very painfully obvious that he's the mastermind. In the book, however, Palpatine comes across as a little bit more conniving, using false ignorance as a way to persuade Anakin and slowly poison his mind to the dark side. His knowledge of the Sith doesn't just come out of nowhere, he sprinkles that he's got an interest in researching this extinct race of people, talking to Anakin about their practices as if he's ignorant of their misdeeds, focusing on power and passion, both which appeal to Anakin. All of these trustworthy moments and honesty with each other helps break down the walls of certainty that Anakin has surrounding the Jedi, making his turn to the dark side feel more reasonable. He still does some outlandish deeds though, like in the elevator segment when Obi-Wan's unconscious. In the book, he pretends to start slipping from Anakin's foot and asks for Anakin's hand, the one holding Obi-Wan. Something a panicked senator dangling from an elevator might say in a moment of weakness, but also something a calculated, testing senator would say to Anakin to see who he'd choose and how far he has to go before his turn to the dark side is complete. Speaking of Anakin, another highlight the novelization gives is the other reason Anakin really wants to become a master. Not just for his own fulfillment, but for Padme. After he has the dreams about Padme, he remembers that masters are granted special access in the Jedi archives to classified holocrons, some of which Anakin believes could contain data that would save Padme. When Anakin is denied this rank after getting on the council, it adds to his frustration because his one chance to save Padme is now gone. That is until Palpatine talks about Darth Plagueis. It's almost as if Palpatine knew that joining the council this way would force him into a deeper pit of despair, being so close to saving the one he loves only for it to be thrown out underneath him, to no fault of Palpatine. It's the intricacies like this that really help the novelization add so much to episode 3. Another great aspect I love about this book is the bigger highlight that Padme and Bail Organa receive. We get to learn about the 2000, a group of senators who signed a petition to oppose Palpatine's total control over the Senate, as they have suspicions he is leaning towards that. This is of course the basis of planets that could eventually become the Rebel Alliance. It's really cool to see it in early formats, and I wish we could have got more of this in the actual film. The fight scenes are also really great, especially the Dooku and Mustafar duels as they expand upon the characters' inner machinations, especially in their final moments. The expansion of deleted scenes is just also a welcome addition, like the mention of Sindralig and Shaak Ti. Grievous is also known to be a lot more violent and ruthless in this book, treating his crew as completely expendable despite them being Neimoidians. I also love that in the book, once Anakin becomes Vader, he is then referred to as Darth Vader in writing. I'm telling you, if you absolutely adore episode 3, this is honestly, in my opinion, the second best way to experience this story. There's just so much more meat on the bones, and after watching episode 3 again after reading, knowing what the characters are thinking and all the extra scenes that enhance the characters' motivations, the novelization completes its objective of enhancing the original product, while also being an amazing one in its own right. It's not a super long read either, you can read it pretty leisurely within a week or two. I cannot recommend this novelization enough. If you are going to experience episode 3 in a new light, let it be the incredible adaptation by the talented Matthew Stover. Now let's go back to something a bit closer to its original format, but one that has been enhanced by the passion of the fans. A very few dedicated fans have spent the last few years constantly adjusting their own supercut of Revenge of the Sith. These versions sit at around 5 hours, and they include scenes from external media in order to create a complete chronological story of all events surrounding Revenge of the Sith. This includes things like the 3D Clone Wars series, the 2D Clone Wars series, parts from Tales of the Jedi, parts from The Mandalorian, even deleted scenes that have been restored and put back into Revenge of the Sith. It is a long watch, but honestly, if you're a massive fan of Revenge of the Sith, this is a unique and awesome way to experience it. Now, there are two major edits going around at the moment that I've learned of. One by Republic Edits 501, which I have personally watched because it was very easy to get on Google Drive, and there's also Numerical Joker's cut. I am planning on watching Numerical Joker's cut as well, as it is in 4K and has a custom crawl, some things that I'm very interested in. And there's also some custom restorations of certain deleted scenes as well. This is something I just really love about the Star Wars fanbase, how passionate the community is that they are willing to stitch together this unique chronological experience purely because they just love the series that much. This makes some sections like the early battle in Coruscant and the Order 66 huge major events that are a blast to watch through and just see all come together. Now, this probably won't replace my normal viewing of Revenge of the Sith, but I will definitely be revisiting these every so often to watch with friends or watch in chunks, especially the parts that I really want to see chronologically. I'm not going to show any extra footage from the personal viewing, these clips you're all seeing are completely from their YouTube channels. Now, if any budding Padawans want to actually watch these supercuts, I'll leave some extra data in the back of this holocron. Just look below and you'll find them. We've got one more adaptation to look at that I personally believe is worth consuming. That is another form of literature, this time the comic run of Revenge of the Sith. Lastly, we have the Revenge of the Sith comic adaptation. This was a 4-issue rendition of the entire story in a very condensed format. Yes, this is definitely one of the weaker ways to experience the story, but I think if you love the film, it's still worth a read. It's only 4 issues, so it's quite short. Some of the art and coloring is absolutely amazing as well, especially in the latter half of the issues. You get to see some of the deleted scenes in drawn form, including Mace Windu arriving at the crash site. One I particularly liked was seeing all the Order 66 panels, as a lot of these were cut from the original film, and it's great to see them in another format. And even some of the character deaths are changed, like Ki-Adi-Mundi's. My favourite part, I think, though, is after the Mustafar fight. The Obi-Wan speech that has become so iconic is actually seen from Anakin's point of view as he's burning next to the lava, and it really gives the entire section a much more personal feel. Now, if you want to read this yourself, there's many ways to read it. You can still get trade paperbacks of this, and of course, there are many ways to read this online. I'd love to actually collect these individual issues, if I can find them across the galaxy, that is. Even though it is a short experience, I still highly recommend reading it. It is a blast to get through, has some great art, and overall is a nice condensed way to experience it, especially if you've already watched the film. There we have it, my personal 4 favorite ways to consume Episode 3, apart from, of course, the original release. It is honestly just so amazing to see how many people are absolutely in love with the prequels today. I know I've said it earlier, but I just hope that the hype for the prequels will continue on, and after watching this, you'll give the other formats a shot. I think if I were to pick a favorite out of the ones I've shown today, it still has to be the novelization. It is genuinely one of my favorite books ever, and it stands strong despite being just an adaptation in some eyes. The game, of course, is incredibly good time as well, especially with a buddy. The Supercut is an amazing viewing, offering every single perspective on one of the most important moments in the galaxy far, far away. And lastly, the comic does provide some fresh new perspectives in a short, easy to read format that has some really standout panels. In whatever way you consume Episode 3, whether it be one of these formats or just the original, make sure to celebrate it for what it is. An incredible story from the galaxy far, far away that we all know and love. I'm afraid that's all the time I have now. My master Dudu Queef is calling for me. Gotta fix up the other holocrons. I have been eyeing another one, about a supposed star killer, but I suppose you have to head back to the archives to find that one, young Padawan. Until then, may the Force be with you. Always. Oh, and before I go, I gotta remind you to keep shredding. See ya!